everyone, and welcome to the 17th episode of Point of View, a series of leadership discussions by amazing workplaces. In this series, I'm getting into a discussion with people in leadership positions from various organizations spread across India as well as across borders. The idea is to get into conversation with them to get them to share their views about the various aspects that make organizations really amazing. The purpose is to understand what drives leaders to their own workplaces so that we can delve deeper into the corporate philosophy and share with you path breaking ideas. Ideas that come straight from people who have gone ahead and changed their workplace to make them better, more inviting, and extremely thriving for their own people. Our guest on the show today is someone who has 16 plus years of experience across various roles in banking, HR, L&D, diversity and inclusion, hiring, leadership and talent development, consulting for global banks, project management, banking operations, etc. Let me present to you Purva Gera, Global Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Leader for Banking and Capital Markets Vertical at Genpact. Purva has many accolades and awards to her credit, which includes the Brandon Hall Gold Awards and Brandon Hall Best Advance in D&I Strategy and Leadership Development of Women. She is also the General Secretary of the National Banking and Credit Council, WICCI India. Welcome, Purva. It's a pleasure to have you on Point of View today. I'm really so excited for our conversation.
Thanks a lot, Ekta, and what a wonderful intro. You've set the tone just right. So, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Purva. It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you for giving us your time. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Purva, you have spent 16 long years at a single organization. You joined Genpact way back in 2004 and slowly rose to the position of Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leader for Banking and Capital Markets Vertical. What are some of the most important attributes and decisions in your journey that led you to where you reached?
Thanks, Ekta. It's actually interesting that you say that, right? Because to the world, it's like 17 years in one organization. But to me, it's 17 years, 10 different roles, consulting for five key global banks across the world, designing leadership development programs, leading diversity, equity, inclusion, human resources, organization development, 16 bosses, 8 promotions, thousands of colleagues, and a lot of certifications like design thinking, green belt, project management. There's a leadership program that we just concluded where we are getting certified from Harvard Business. So it's actually, one of the best places that I got an opportunity to work with. Genpact gave me just the perfect foundation. It's an organization that actually makes you a learner for life. Okay, so the biggest lessons that I learned, the first one, which by the way, right now, was happening, and therefore I've just told you about a change that I'm going to make, right? So if you get too comfortable, that's actually a sign that you need to bring a change. Second, you have to keep saying yes to things that you haven't tried before,
Yeah.
especially the things that that are not confined to the boundaries of your role, because it's going to get overwhelming. Of course it will, but then if you reflect back, those would actually be the biggest learnings that you've received, right? You have to be a forever learner. You have to find yourself a sponsor and mentor.
Yeah.
uh, Another very important point is you are actually as strong as your teams. Okay, so empower others, have their back, support them without really expecting anything in return, right? Because as a leader, you're the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
The next one, be human and be you, because you have to be very comfortable in your skin. Otherwise, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And last but not the least, you're actually not your job title. So you're way more than that. So stop taking yourself too seriously and believe in the impermanence of everything. So that's been my journey, and I'll pause here.
Okay, thank you, Purva. So nicely put. In fact, that just shows, the kind of balanced approach that you bring to the table with all your roles, and the kind of experience that you've had. And very nicely you put it that for maybe the outside world it's 16 years, but for you it's many different roles, many different bosses, so much of learning. So it's not just something which happened in a one shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are all baby steps, tiny steps that you've been taking over the years. Thank you so much, Purva. I really love the way you put it across. Yeah, thank
And
you.
yeah, thanks.
So, Purva, for a major part of your career, you have worked on diversity as well as learning and development related projects.
Mhm.
Please share your views on the importance of diversity and inclusion as well as learning and development in an organization from the point of view of hiring and retention.
I think a very important question, Ekta. Thanks for bringing that up. See, you really need to ensure that all your employees feel accepted and then they feel valued, right? Because when they do that, they are happier at the workplace and they would never want to leave you, right? Every organization is trying to make a lot of, things, I mean, possible right from the start, which means arresting unconscious bias right at the hiring stage, right? Building cultural and emotional intelligence, especially in the leadership teams, making collaboration one of the core values of your organization, right? And then creating a culture of learning because nothing will happen. In one go, like you rightly said in the previous comment of yours, right? It's baby steps, and then you make mistakes, you learn, and you evolve, right? And it's a journey which everyone must take to ensure that employees actually feel a part of what you're driving. Otherwise, everything will be short run.
Right. Okay, thank you, Purva. Tell me one thing. As organizations adapt to and adopt remote working, what is the long term impact of remote working on creating a culture of diversity and inclusion?
Absolutely. I mean, another very important point. So, as we reflect on 2020 and what happened with all of us, right? We all know that we are in a unique situation. Everyone is still trying to figure out what's next, what's best. But if you ask me, I personally believe that remote work can actually enhance workplace diversity, right? A lot of organizations have found unexpected benefits since the work from home, and since the time it got implemented. It has increased the efficiency and productivity. A lot of employees have said that actually the work life balance has become better, and obviously the organizations feel that there are a lot of reduced costs, so a lot of benefits, right? Who misses the long hour rush commutes, right? I personally have so many friends who've actually been away from families, people who come from not the tier 1 cities. They had to actually be living in different cities, but now they are at their parents places. And the community of course is realizing all the benefits too, like decrease in pollution and traffic, right? While we kind of continuously try and make strides to the whole work from home and the hybrid models, etc., I think it's extremely important for organizations to really sustain their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, right? Because just like we spoke about the positives, there are a lot of risks as well which we need to balance. One of the key risks that I can think of, especially faced by the diverse, marginalized, or underrepresented employee groups, right? They anyway do not feel very visible, they do not feel very heard, right? And with remote working, the potential for exclusion can actually go up.
Right,
Similarly, parents were feeling a lot of stress because while the work life balance became better, they found, a better situation in terms of doing things that they wanted to. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who find that because the lines have blurred, they take a break, they go back and they do their, domestic stuff. They have to kind of clean the houses, do a lot of things, and then come back to work. So there are not a lot of breaks, and that has kind of put a lot of pressure on the mental well-being of a lot of employees as well, right? So organizations have to actually strike a balance, make sure that they don't really lose the momentum in all the initiatives that they've built in regular work environments, and in fact increase it by 10x. That's my view. And you can add on what you think, because I'm sure you would have some interesting views on that, Ekta.
Okay, so basically, uh, what I want to understand more from you is about inclusivity,
Hmm.
because diversity, yes, remote working has given a lot of increased the scope of diversity, but
Hmm.
at the same time, when we talk about inclusivity,
Hmm.
okay, so are people really feeling inclusive because they're not even meeting each other? If there is a new hire, how does that person actually feel included in that organization, especially if he is from a minority section, or he has to go through some kind of unconscious bias? How do people deal with these kind of situations in the current scenario?
Exactly, and that's the previous point that I was actually hitting on. So it's extremely important for organizations to actually put a lot of effort in their remote engagement strategies, right? So if I take the example of my organization, the minute the pandemic hit us, we launched Adapt and Rise. Okay, it's not that our people were not really following any structured paths, etc., but we all realized that the efforts that we now need to make to take care of our employees have to increase to almost 10x of what we were doing earlier, right? And Adapt and Rise proved to be so interesting for all of us that in fact our employee mood scores went up by 30-40% during this time, right? Which is like the so what if we are virtually connected, we kind of also link the dots by saying virtually together supporting each other, right? So whether it was our HR teams, our operations teams, everybody came together. We kind of identified what were the top priorities, and the good part was that we kept revisiting those priorities because hey, nobody was prepared for what was happening, right? And therefore, when you have a team of 20,000 employees working from various parts of the world, right, but they are connecting on a daily basis, they have those structured interventions that you plan, they have virtual family days that you plan, they have a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion and mental wellness sessions that you plan. They realize that they're working for an organization that really is taking care of them as individuals, as human beings, right? So therefore, it's extremely important, like we said. And even for our diversity, equity, inclusion, our efforts did not go down.
Yeah.
We continued investing in our people. There were a lot of employee resource groups that were set. We call them affinity groups, right? Where people started connecting. There was a session that we did where the parents came together discussing what were the challenges that they were facing and how are they keeping their children engaged during the pandemic. So a lot of things that you can do, and you can truly make a difference by thinking through the situation and acting on it, you know, and then revisiting it, and then deciding what are the gaps, how do I fill it. So a lot of things that you can do as HR leaders and even as employees, supporting each other, very important.
Okay, thank you, Purva. In fact, thank you for elaborating on this point from the experiences that you've had, in your organization. Thanks. So now coming to your own role as a leader, yeah, you have actually gone through a journey, and today you are in a very strong position as a leader, yeah, and you're a woman leader. Okay, so, talking about women in leadership positions, what thoughts come to your mind when you hear this statement, especially when you envision yourself in a leadership role?
Okay, it's an interesting one. And I strongly believe that you need to be the change that you want to see. Okay, so, and the change that I want to see is more and more women in leadership roles supporting each other, right? Because I strongly believe that another woman actually trying to do what you're doing is not your competition. So you've got to support her, right? Cheer loudly for her. We definitely are making progress, but I don't think we are making it as fast because the fact still remains that still there aren't enough women in leadership roles in corporate, right? So the efforts have to continue, and the small things that we can do is, be a sponsor to someone. Like in my current role, I got the opportunity to work with a lot of women, right? And I made sure that I'm a sponsor championing them, right? I have to own their careers. Their success has to be my success. So, and whenever they used to get like a, pat on their backs, they used to call me up and I used to feel very happy about it, right? We used to celebrate together. So that's how you kind of start to not just, you know, not just kind of be a strong woman leader, but also make more women leaders. I think it's a responsibility on each one of us.
Right. Thank you so much. So, I mean, like you rightly said, you have to support each other. Yeah. Because you can't be a hindrance to anybody's growth, especially like you mentioned, you're not a competition. You are actually on the same journey at different stages of life, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Purva. Thank you for sharing such beautiful ideas with us. And like you mentioned before, you have started with a new role in a new company. I wish you all the best as you start your new journey of becoming a culture evangelist at a new organization altogether. Thank you so much once again. It was a pleasure having you on Point of View.
Thanks a lot, Ekta, and you've been an absolute pleasure to speak to and a very enriching conversation too. And like they say, change is the only constant. So I'm sure with this change, a lot of good will come out as well. So all the very best, and we shall stay in touch.
Thank you, Purva. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Subscribe to our channel for latest updates on leadership interviews, webinars and educative videos related to human resources, learning and development, culture, employee engagement, and many more.